And there we are. Hey, how you guys doing? Listen, today's just gonna be a real quick video exposing my underparts. Yeah, listen, we just want to take a quick look at what makes these jet boats go. You know, look, I'm on the forums just like you. I'm on the Facebook pages just like you. And we all kind of read what people are saying. And, you know, for some of us, a little bit more experienced than others, and that's okay, right? Because nobody got into this and just knows it all right from the get-go. But I gotta say, it does get a little bit comical when we read some of the things about, well, you know, my boat's stuck in neutral and I can't get it to go into forward gear. You know, I think something is getting jammed up in the auger. You know, all sorts of types of terminology that, you know, is close but not quite there. You know, things like this boat, well, any of these boats, they don't have gears, right? So let's just spend a couple of minutes just going over exactly what makes these boats go, how simplistic they really are. We're just going to take a quick look at a few components, and to the extent that this might help a few folks just understand and better their boating experience, then hey, all the better. And guess what too? Got a subscriber special deal going on here. Stick it out through this video and you'll see what I'm talking about. Alright, Captain Leon coming at you. Enjoy. Okay, we're gonna begin where the magic happens. The Yamaha 180 horsepower inline 4-cylinder 1.8 liter high output engine, and toward the back of this engine where the crankshaft ends, the drive shaft comes out and it goes into the drive coupler that's immediately underneath that black covering you see right there. That coupler merges with another part. You can see that in this next schematic. The two coupler units merge together, and then a shaft leaves that and goes into the intermediate bearing. This is the silver unit mounted to the back wall of the boat that requires periodic greasing. Please check my other videos for the maintenance tips. We now move to the back of the boat. Okay, the moment you've been waiting for, exposing my underparts. That's right, we're gonna go down into the belly of the bilge. But first we need to lift up the swim deck platform to expose the access hatches and the port for the clean out plug. This will vary in shapes and sizes depending on your model. Dual engine boats of course have twin clean out plugs. Alright, so now we're at the point where we want to open up our panel, exposing the bilge area. This is your, you know, wet storage area under your swim deck. You know, take a note, see how clean this is? This is a 7-year-old boat, so this is all about boat cleanliness. Sounds like the episode of another video. So first thing you need to do is, you know, right in here is where we pull out our jet pump plug, and more on that in a minute. But the shaft with which this drops down, you know, this is a rubber surround in here, and as you can see when you look in through this opening, there's a clamp right there that has to be loosened. So we're just going to use a driver and just reach in and loosen that clamp. Okay, now that that's done, we're now going to remove this access panel with the stainless steel screws that are roll around. Just be careful that you don't lose any of those screws. We could actually leave this off right now, and we'll take it from there. Okay, we're ready to lift up this panel now, and as you can see, it comes up pretty easy. This will be siliconed from the factory, so you might have to break that original factory silicone. From my experience, it doesn't hold on too terribly strong, and of course, you know, if you have a twin engine boat, this is going to present a little bit differently. If you have the FHA model, once again, with the FSH, a little different as well. Okay, let's take a minute now to expose our underparts as promised, and this way we could all become a little bit more familiar with what makes up the components within the bilge area. So, you know, here is our exhaust box, okay? The exhaust is coming out from within the engine compartment area. It's flowing right through, you know, the rear wall here, the back wall of the engine compartment, and it's flowing into this box that has these rubber straps, and the exhaust is then, you know, it's mixed with water, as you probably know. It helps keep everything cool, doesn't burn up your boat. You can see the straps and the rubber pads are used to kind of prevent vibration, and that exhaust comes up and it goes around this tube and it comes down, and then as you can see it drops down and it comes out right here, and this is where it comes out on the side of the jet pump. Let's take a quick look at that. Okay, so here you have it. Here is where the exhaust is coming out, right on the side of the jet pump. You got some of these little gnarly tips sticking up here of rubber. Some of you have expressed that you see some junk come pumping out of there once in a while. But bottom line is that's where the exhaust exits the boat. So when we talk about the clamps and inspecting your clamps, I've already had to replace a clamp here. You know, these clamps once in a while can go on you. Keep tabs on them. You wouldn't want to have them come off and any of these components loosen. You can see there's a couple of more clamps right down here. Okay, let's move forward. So here we can see this is our deck drain, if you will. This is a passive drain system. You all know that inside your boat, at the back of the boat, you could see a little hole there. Any water that flows into the boat and drops down into that little hole right by the back seat flows through this pipe. It's just a gravity situation, and this is what we call, you know, our scupper, our self-bailing boat. It's now a requirement on all new boats, and let's take a look at where that water would run out as it flows out. This would be if you took a wave over the bow and you had a lot of water in the actual, you know, seating area. Alright, so here you go. Here is where the water is going to drain out. There's a metal plate. Oh my goodness, there's a fire engine. Okay, it passed. Okay, so here is where the water drains out. This is called the scupper valve back in here, okay? It's protected by this metal plate, and the water will flow out from that valve that's right behind this plate, okay? Not a big deal, but it's a real great system to drain the boat of water, separate and apart from your bilge pump, which, as you know, is much lower down in the front of the engine. Okay, so moving right along, we see this hose right here, okay? This is our water intake. This is where the water is basically sucked in, if you will, forced in from the jet pump area, and it pushes the water into the engine. It flows up, it mixes with the exhaust, it cools off the oil cooler section, and it goes up into the water jackets and cools the rest of the engine. You know, when that water comes out of the engine, it comes out in a couple of different places. Of course, some comes through the exhaust, but some of it ends up flowing out from this pipe right here. And this comes out more toward the top of the engine. When the engine is warm and the thermostat is fully open, you will see a greater flow of water coming out from this pipe. And why don't we take a quick look to see where that is on the back by the jet pump. Alright, so here you go. Here is your intake right here. Right behind this plate is a little screen. This is where the water is basically sucked in, or I should say pushed in. So as water is flowing past the jet pump, you know, propelling the boat forward, some of it is redirected behind this screen into a little catch, and it forces that water back into the engine to cool the engine off. Again, a lot of the water ends up leaving through the exhaust right over here, but also a lot of it ends up coming out of this pipe right back here underneath. This is where water will come out when it basically is exiting the engine, and that'll be real super hot water right there. Like I said, you will see the flow increase a little more once the engine's warm, and then you'll see that water cascading down on top of your steering cable. So now we're getting to the meat and the potatoes, all right? This right here, and this bolt, and this bolt, this is the back of the intermediate bearing. So you may recall the intermediate bearing is the the rearmost bearing mounted to the back wall in the engine compartment. The drive shaft from the back of the engine goes straight out, goes into that bearing, and then continues right through here under this rubber hose. All right, this is the shaft coming right out of the engine. It's basically as simple as that. As the engine is spinning internally, the crankshaft is spinning, we're going to have the drive shaft coming right out the back of the engine, and as you can see, it disappears into this fiberglass hub right here. Where does it go, you ask? Let's take a look under the boat to find out. Okay, here you go. Here's where the shaft comes out. All right, and that's where it's exiting, and now we are actually outside of the boat in the exposed area, right? Exposed to water, and that shaft just runs, and look, here is our clean out port. We're looking straight up right now into the sunshine, and as we follow that shaft along, we can see that it ends up going directly into the impeller, all right? And that's the impeller right back there. So, my question, where are the gears? There are none, right? We don't have a forward, we don't have a reverse, we don't have a neutral. We start the engine, and this shaft just starts spinning with the speed of the engine, and our impeller is spinning at that exact speed as well. So when we say the engine is turning at 4,000 RPMs and we see the 4 on our tachometer on our dash, we know that this shaft and this impeller is spinning at that speed as well. There are no gears. Let's take it to the next step. Alright, so here's another look at it, right? Now we're looking from the upside down, looking straight down. We can see where the shaft once again comes through. It makes it to the area where the intake grate is outside of the boat, or I should say under the boat, and straight into that impeller, okay? You know, bottom line is when we need to clean out this area, should there be seaweed or any sort of debris, you basically want to remove your plug, right? So here, with that being said, you know, here is our plug. It drops in. We know we lock it, right? Once it's in place, had it backwards, there we go. And then we lock it, and it's locked in place, all right? We hit the button, it unlocks, and we remove it. Now on that note, you never ever want to leave this plug locked in there while the boat's sitting for long periods of time. The only time this plug wants to be in there and locked is when you're underway or when you're trailering, as per Yamaha. You know, it can get wedged in there. There is a rubber surround that could swell. You know, again, this particular plug, this setup is going into its 7th season, and you know, it operates as smooth as butter. I mean, it's just a lock and unlock. It's just a matter of, you know, maintaining it, lubricating it, throwing a little silicone spray on it, and all is well. Needless to say, we've never had any problems with that. Okay, so let's take a look a little further now. We see we have this corrugated protective tubing. This is just protecting some of the cables that are coming from the helm area. We really have 2 primary cables, right? So the first one, you know, it comes out of that tubing, and you see it go right through here. This is basically our directional controller cable. This will move our gate up and down in the back. You know, and control whether we're moving forward or reverse. And then the other cable down here, moving through, this one here is our steering cable, right? So as we go ahead and we turn the wheel to port or starboard, this is going to control which way our jet pump turns. A couple of little other items in here. I mean, this is our transducer left over from our Formula Ranch unit. It's still epoxy down there. But this unit right here, this is our speedometer. So this has a paddle wheel below the boat. We could take a look at that. Alright, and as you can see, you know, the faster that spins, it gives a reading to this unit. There's a wire coming out of it, and it reports to the dashboard how fast we are going. And this, of course, is our drain plug, which when we close our drain plugs before we, you know, hit to the water, you know, we'll see these things locked up. That's pretty much it as far as the internals here in the bilge area. It's important to just get an idea of what's in here. You know, should you be experiencing water intruding into the boat, you're not quite sure where it's coming in from, not a bad idea to remove this panel, take a look. You could actually remove this panel while you're in the water. There's no problem with that. Just be mindful that, you know, when you lift this lid and this switch is allowed to pop, it kills the engine. So you won't be able to keep the engine running for safety purposes, but you can remove this panel and you can inspect and take a look to see if you have any water intrusion. Okay, so here we are now at the back of the boat. The impeller, which is that blade at the end of the drive shaft, is right underneath this casing in here. It blows that stream of water at a high force right through here, and as we can see, the nozzle of our jet pump kind of angles down, all right, coning, if you will, and that reduction in diameter makes the water speed up even faster. Some of you know the physics behind that, the Venturi effect. But then when we're talking about whether the boat propels forward or reverse, is really, like we said, there's no gears, it's directional control. So that's why the device up in the helm area is called the directional controller. When you push that forward, this gate lifts all the way up, letting all the flow of water flow out the back. As you lower that directional controller down, you're in a neutral position, half water forward, half water flowing under the boat, keeping the boat in a steady position. I have a video on that, on how to obtain that absolute neutral. And then, of course, when you bring the directional controller into the reverse mode, it's directing more of the water under the boat, and that's going to push the boat in a reverse direction. The left-right or the port-starboard control is really just a matter of turning the steering wheel, and that's just controlling which way the jet pump is facing. So it's really that simple, right? There are no gears, no nothing. We start the engine, we're getting a steady flow of water, and it's just a matter of how we control the direction and the flow of that water. That's really it in a nutshell. I hope you've appreciated that, and maybe that'll clarify some of the questions some of you may had. Okay, here we go, guys. Ready for the super subscriber sale? Well, you may recall from prior videos, I upgraded my Lowrance unit to a little bit larger unit. I could, attach the link to that video at the bottom of this video. You can see about some other modifications I made. But if you're a subscriber to my channel, and if you're interested, my prior Lowrance, the Elite 4 HDI, works perfectly. It's in great condition. The only thing missing from this is the transducer. That's epoxied still in the hull of the boat. I didn't want to disturb that. You could always get that as an add-on, but it will work perfectly as is right now. As a chart plotter, you just won't have the sonar component of it. I'm willing to give this to any subscriber for $50 just to cover the cost of, packaging, shipping, and so forth. And I will send this out to you. So if someone is interested, you must be a subscriber. Send me a message. Reach out to me, through YouTube, through the forums, through the Facebook page, wherever you might see me. The first person that reaches out and says, "Yeah, Leon, I'll take it for $50. You got it, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Okay, hope all is well, everyone. Have a healthy and happy boating season. Captain Leon, signing off.